Hey guys, good morning. Hopefully everyone had a nice weekend. Hopefully we've fixed our internet connectivity issues. Um, but I want to go over, well, I'm going to give it a minute or two. I guess I just looked at the clock. I'm on a little bit early. So if anyone's on, if you can just hang tight, we're going to talk about, as you can see, adding, subtracting fractions, and we're going to look at least common multiple, which is important when we're doing this. So I'm going to give people another minute or two to get on. Okay, guys. So yesterday, or excuse me, on Thursday, I posted a worksheet about least common multiple. And that's going to be important that you understand the least common multiple when we are looking at adding and subtracting fractions. So I think I'll start with we'll start with some basic numbers. So if we have like 4 and we'll say 16. Remember what I said is you always want to see if the smallest number, which in this case is 4, goes into the larger number, which is 16. In this case, it does. So we know that the smallest common multiple of 4 and 16 is going to be 16. And we could do it a couple ways how you could see it. We can just basically show all the factors of 4. So 4 would be 4, 8, 12, and 16. And then if we do 16, you know it's going to be, I'll just do it out. It'll be 16, 32, 48, and 64. But we see right off the bat that we know 4 goes into 16 4 times. So when I say the factors, all you're going to do is add 4 to 4 to 4 to 4, keep adding by 4, 16, 16, 16. Those gives you the factors. So the least common multiple for 4 and 16 is going to be 16. Now let's do another one. Let's say we do 3 and 8. Does 3 go into 8? It doesn't. So we know that 3 doesn't go evenly to 8. So what we're going to have to do for this one is we're going to have to factor this out. So we would do, for 3, we'd do 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 30. Okay. And then we do the same thing for 8. We're just going to keep adding 8 to 8 until we find a number that both these have in common. So if we do 8, 16, 24, 32, oh, I'm going to look and say, oh, I see a 24 and a 24. So 3 and 8, the least common multiple is going to be 24. So if these were in fractions, and I'll show you in a second. So if we had like 2/3 plus, we'll say 5/8, our common multiple for this is going to be 24. So both these are going to be over 24, and we'll do a practical application of this. So we're going to say 24 is going to be the common denominator. And 3 goes into 24 8 times. So if we multiply the bottom times 8, we also have to multiply the top times 8. So 8 times 2 is going to be 16. In this case, 8 times what equals 24? It's going to be 3. So if we multiply the bottom times 3, we certainly have to multiply the top times 3. So that's going to be 15. And then we can just do a traditional addition problem. So we're going to add the 16 and the 15. So it's going to be 31 over 24. Okay. So let's just get into some fractions, but the least common multiple is going to be important when we're adding or subtracting fractions with different denominators. Okay. So let's do, we'll do a subtraction problem. 7/4 minus 8/5. So we know 4 is not going to go into 5 evenly. So 5 is not going to be our common denominator. So what we have to do is we're going to have to factor out 4 and 5. So if I do 4, 8, 12, 16, and 20, I'm going to stop at 20. And for 5, we'll do 5, 10, 15, and we get 20. So 20 is going to be our common denominator. We see it here for this fraction. So 20 is going to be the common denominator. So we're going to put 20 on the bottom. And 4 times 5 is going to be 20. But we have to multiply the top times 5. So that's going to be 35. And 5 times 4 is 20. So then we have to multiply the top part of the fraction by 4 also, and that's going to be 32. And then we just do 35 minus 32, and that's going to be 3 over 20. Because when we're subtracting or adding fractions, we just actually add the numerator. We don't have to do the denominator. You don't have to do 20 minus 20. We're just doing 35 20ths minus 32 20ths, so it's going to be 3 20ths. Okay, so it's really important that we're able to understand how we factor these numbers, okay? Let's do an addition problem here. Let me see. If I do 9/8 plus 5/6. Okay. 6 isn't going to go into 8. We know that. Now, one thing I told you, I'm going to show you a trick here. And I think I mentioned this the other day. The one thing you can always do is you can always multiply these two numbers times each other. And that's going to be 48. So we know both numbers go into 48. So we'll just use 48 for now. Okay. So 8 times 6 is 48. And then 9 times 6 is 54. And 6 times 8 is 48, but we also have to multiply the top times 6, so that's going to be 30. So that's going to give us 84 over 48. Okay, but I want to back up because that you get a bigger number there. It's not wrong, so you've got the right number there, but I want to show you why sometimes that one isn't the most effective way. So this is going to be 6. And I want to get rid of, because there's a smaller common denominator. So if we factor out the 8, and we do 8, 16, 24, 32. And if we do the 6, you're going to get 6, 12, 18, 24. So 24 would be the least common multiple. Okay. So let's put this over 24. And 8 times 3 is 24. So 3 times 9 is 27. And 6 times 4, and that's going to be 20. So we're going to get, in this case, 57 over 24. Okay, so let me make sure I did that right. 57. Okay, so you're just getting a smaller number because you're going to have to reduce a little bit more over here, but you can certainly do that if you're familiar with reducing. Okay, let's do another one here. Let's do 17 over 7 minus 5 over 3. Now, in this case, it's going to work out. Well, the first thing you want to do is divide the 3 into the 7. It doesn't go evenly. But when we do 3 times 7, it's going to be 21. Okay. And in this case, that is going to be the least common multiple. So if we factor it out, it's going to be 21. So you can certainly always multiply two numbers times each other. Just to show you how that works, it'll be 7, 14, 21, 28. And then if we do the threes, we'll do 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, and 21. And we see that 21 is the least common multiple. So that's going to be our new denominator. So we've got over 21. 7 times 3 is 21. And then 3 times 17 is 51. And 3 times 7 is 21. And we have to multiply top times 7. So 5 times 7 is 35. And then we just do 51 minus 35. And that's going to be 16 over 21. Okay, so that gives us the answer right there. Okay, let's do a couple more, and then I'll give you some practice, both adding and subtracting. Remember, when you add and subtract, it's exactly the same process. We have to find a common denominator. In this case, the common denominator is the same thing as what we did up here. It's the least common multiple. So least common multiple and denominator, we're adding and subtracting, are going to be exactly the same. Okay, so let's do another one here. Let's do 8 over 3 plus 3 over 2. Okay, this one's going to be a little bit easier because it's going to be 3 times 2 is going to be 6. So 6 is going to be our common denominator. And we get that by multiplying those two. Or if you just factored it out, you would see 3, 6, 9, 12. And then if we did the 2, 2, 4, 6. And we're going to see 6 is the least common multiple. So 6 is going to be our common denominator. Okay. So 3 times 2 is 6. So we're going to have to do 2 times 8, and that's 16. And 2 times 3 is 6, and then 3 times 3 is going to be 9. So if we add these up, you would get 25 over 6. Okay. But remember, I'm not sure if we've covered this or not. This would be called an improper fraction. So on the top number, the numerator, in this case 25, is bigger than the denominator. We call that an improper fraction. Because usually fractions, the numerator, the number on top, is typically smaller. But when the number on the top, the numerator, is bigger than the denominator, it's called an improper fraction. And we'll get into that next couple of days. Okay, let's do one more, just so we get the hang of this. Let's do 17 over 7 minus 5 over 3. Once again, 7 and 3, you multiply them, you're going to get 21. So a lot of these, you guys, if you are having a hard time with this, one thing you might want to do if you've got a multiplication chart, that would be helpful, because then you can look at the 3s, you go across, it'd be 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21. And then you go down to the 7s, it'd be 7, 14, 21. Then you realize, oh, both of them going to 21. So if we factor this out, it would be 7, 14, 21, 28, 35. I'll go out 5 spots. And then we'll do 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21. And we see, oh, 21 is the least common factor. 21, 21. So that's going to be our denominator. So we're going to put both these over 21. Okay. And 7 times 3 is 21. So we have to multiply top times that. That's going to be 51. And 3 times 7 is 21. So we multiply 5 times 7. That's going to be 35. And then we just do 51 minus 35. It's going to be 16. And did I do that one already? I apologize if I did. I think I did. Okay. Let's do one more that we haven't done here. So if I do 9 sevenths plus 5 over 6. Okay, let's just factor this one out. So we're going to do 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42, 49. Okay. Then we'll do the 6s. So you do 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36, 42. And we see, oh, 42 is least common multiple for both of those right here. So we know both these now are going to go over 42. Okay, so I'm going to put over 42 over 42. And 7 times 6 is 42. So this is going to be 63, because we're going to multiply 6 times 9. And 6 times and then we just add them together, and you would get 98 over 42. Okay. So there's a couple ways you guys can do this. You certainly, like I said, if we have like 7 tenths plus 2 fifths, you can always multiply these two numbers, you're going to get 50. Oops, excuse me. But we know right here, 5 will go into 10. So really our least common multiple is going to be 10, but we'll do this both ways. So you can always, if you're in a bind and can't figure it out, you can always multiply the two numbers times each other. That's going to give you a common denominator. You certainly can do that if you're in a bind, but like I said, sometimes the numbers can be a lot bigger, and I'll show you, we'll do both these. So if we have 50, 10 times 5, and then 7 times 5. So that's going to be 35. And this is 10. 5 times 10 is going to be 50. So we have to multiply the top times 10. So that's going to be 20. Okay, so you have a 35 and a 20. But if we do, we factored out with the smallest one, it's just going to be, this one is just going to be 1 times 10 and 1 times 7. So that's going to be 7. And this one's going to be, let me erase this. It's going to be 5 times 2, and then the 2 times 2. So it's going to be 4. So this one's going to give you 55 over 50. And this is going to be 11 over 10. And these fractions are exactly the same. So 55 over 50 is the same as 11 over 10. Those are the exact same number, but when you reduce, you're eventually going to get this, the bottom one. So you're going to spend a little more time doing some reducing. So sometimes it's probably a little bit easier to use the smallest number. But like I said, if you're in a bind and you can't figure it out, you can always multiply the two denominators times each other. Okay. But like I said, if you kind of struggle with this, sometimes it's great to have the multiplication chart right next to you. And then you just go out, like, so in this case, if you got the 10 and the 5, you just look across and you're going to see 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. And then for the 10, you're going to see 10, 20, 30. We're going to go, hold on. I see 10 right off the bat. So I know 10 is going to be the least common multiple, which in turn, that's going to be our common denominator when we're adding fractions with different denominators. So there's a couple ways you guys can do it. And actually, Khan Academy showed you the prime factorization, which we will get into that too. I'm just trying to give you some options, and whichever way you feel comfortable doing it, because what we want to do is get the right answer. But sometimes, doing it in the shortest amount of time, and that would be finding the least common multiple instead of multiplying the two denominators times each other. So there's a couple ways you guys can do it. So I will go ahead and post some practice for you guys, and we'll pick this up again tomorrow. So have a wonderful day, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.